The entire top 10 of the British Hillclimb Championship, plus the same number again, travelled to Belfast for the Ulster Automobile Club's Craigantlet Hillclimb, which is the second round of the Northern Ireland Hillclimb Championship, sponsored by Motorsport Supplies. The visitors were a real spectacle with their top 12 run-offs for 2 rounds of their championship. Will Hall in a 4-litre Gould was lying 10th after the first 2 rounds of their series at Prescott. 9th in the standings was David Warburton in a 1600cc Gould. The Goulds are popular in the BHC, David Erne in his 3.5-litre version. Richard Spedding has a 1585cc GWR Raptor 2. Sean Gould, rightly in a GR59. Fifth arriving here is former champion Alex Summers in a DJ Firestorm 2650. Three-time champion Trevor Willis was 4th overall before Craigantlet. 7-time champion Scott Moran starts here 3rd. Matthew Ryder is tied in the points race and looking to break the deadlock on the Northern Ireland Hill. Winner of the last 3 championships that ran, Wallace Menzies looks like he has every intention of taking another. The runoffs don't actually count in the overall hill climb, so the BHC competitors were only counting their 2 qualifying runs towards this event. So Alex Summers won the Craigantlet Hillclimb with a 39.97 seconds run, within a second of the Hillclimb record of Scott Moran from 2016, despite the damp conditions. A second place in the second runoff promotes him to 4th in the championship. The practice conditions in the morning with fog at the top of the hill had been extremely challenging, as Graham Wynne would testify. He was lucky to emerge unscathed from this lurid spin at the finish line, but was out of action for the day. The organisers were swift, however, in getting the action running again. Wallace Menzies was 2nd overall with a 40.13. He was 3rd in the first runoff and won the second to give him a clear lead of 2 points in the championship from Matthew Ryder, who took his 3rd second place of the year in the first runoff but lost a bit of ground with 4th place in the latter. He was 8th overall from the qualifying times. 3rd overall was David Erne, which made up for poor scoring from the runoffs. Trevor Willis was 4th overall, and with 5th in the second runoff being his best, he dropped to that position in the points. Sean Gould was 5th overall. 8th and 6th place points maintained his tied position with Richard Spedding. Richard had finished 3 places ahead of the Gould the first time, but 3 behind on the second, and narrowly missed out on a top 10 position overall. Scott Moran scored 6th overall in the UIC's event, but 3rd in the second runoff, preserved that position for him in the championship. Will Hall, who definitely intends climbing the standings, won the first runoff but was 8th in the second one and moves into that position after the day and placed 7th in the event. Paul Hames was 9th overall, picking up a point in the first runoff in the Gould GR59. David Warburton in another Gould's GR59 completed the top 10 at Craigantlet and took a point from the second runoff. Darren Gumbley, driving a 1600cc Force, was 12th overall and 4th in the first runoff, moving him into the top 10 of the championship points. Nicola Menzies was next, double driving the Gould GR55B with David Erne. Stephen Robb, who finished 4th overall in the opening round of the Northern Ireland Hillclimb Championship at Croft, was 14th overall here with all these visitors. 15th overall was Dave Kane in his 1000cc Silver Car S3 and winning the Class 9B sports car class. Happy to have a roof in these conditions. Gerard O'Connell's Delara World Series is quite a sight and sound on a closed road. 16th overall here. Alan Castles was suffering from teething problems with the 2-litre Force, although he wasn't far off his personal best from the Radical sports car in 2019, so he'll be looking forward to a trouble-free run in this car. George Stevenson was next in a 1400cc force, winning class 14 and in 18th overall. Such is the pace and high speed, particularly after the crossroads at Craigantlet, that Richard McGimsey, who was second at Croft, was only just inside the top 20 here, second in class 9B. John Donnelly completed the top 20 in the old school Pilbeam MP52. In the smaller of the road-going production classes, Alan Wallace continued his solo run in the 5090cc Honda Del Sol. Conor Hamill looked like he was enjoying himself on the way to winning the larger production class 2A in his BMW M3. Adrian Mulholland was a stylish second in the RS2000. Philip Cardy drove his Mazda MX-5 straight and true to third in the class. Class 2B is for MX-5 Challenge spec cars. Craig Ewing was the fastest again, as he was at Croft. Wayne Clyde went one better to finish second at Craigantlet, and Robert Fitzgerald was third this time. Gardner McIlwain added another win to his tally with his Westfield in Class 5. William Fogarty had a bit more opposition in Class 6A here than at Croft, with the Fiat X19, but won the class comfortably from Chris Nicholls' Mini. Chris was 1.1 seconds faster than Gary Milligan's. Andrew Straney went one better than the last time and won Class 6B in the Vauxhall Astra. James Lightbody had a little bit of trouble getting the power down in the BMW Mini Cooper in the damp conditions. He was second. Desi Martin was third in a 2-litre Honda Civic. Jack Bowl made the most of the early dry conditions and won Class 7 comfortably in the 1300 GTR Hayabusa. David was the fastest of the Hawthorns, finishing second in class, with Andy Hawthorne third in the Westfield. Class 9A was dominated by rear-wheel drives this time. Dan Campbell isn't just sideways in the twisty bits, but even on this high-speed kink at the finish. He was fastest. Gary Campbell was second, 7/10 of a second behind. Neil Dugan in the rear-wheel drive 205 is very precise at the chicane. Chris Nelson was third behind Day Kane and Richard McGimsey in Class 9B. He's taken to the speed car like a duck to water. Alan MacDonald was fourth in the 1300cc Force SR4. David Evans looked like he had a bit of torque steer to battle to claim Class 10 in the 1.9 Peugeot 205 GTI. In Class 11, Jay Nevin in another of the rear-wheel drive converted Peugeot 205s couldn't wait to get further up the hill and into the fog to kick up some of the dust from Pete Dornan's spill, which caused him this huge moment and great save during practice. Second place Michael Boyle suggests I use gentle fades between my clips, disappearing into the fog in his white Escort. But I think I'll just slide John McDowell in here with his blue Mark II, third. The Lancashires were keen not to be beaten by any visitors in Class 12. Ian was fastest in their Subaru Impreza from Mark, who was second in the class, holding off the Mitsubishi Evo 9 of Nick Coffey. Ethan Faulkner was second in Class 14 behind George Stevenson, narrowly missing out on the top 20 himself in the Jedi Mark IV Suzuki 1000cc. Nigel Pitt was third in the class with a 1070cc OMS 3000. Thomas Corrie was fourth in the 1997cc Reynard SF80. Behind the cars that finished in the top 20, Robert McGimsey in a Maigali SF97T finished just 0.19 of a second ahead of Alan Warburton's Gould GR59. Just a further 0.9 behind the 1600cc Gould was Brendan Flynn in the Megapin Carbon 2000cc with his driveshaft fixed since Croft. If you consider the three-wheeler the adversary of the Mini, it's funny how often they spend with just three on the ground. Mr McDowell giving his beans to win Historic Class 16A. Diego Brett showing great elan to finish second, splitting the Minis in his Lotus. Cameron Rawson was third in his Morris. I think David Wiley might like driving his BMW 2002 in the wet. He won Historic Class 16B, but Norman Harvey was keeping him on his toes just 7 tenths behind on run 1 in the Escort RS 2000. Trevor McElroy was using the full width of the road chasing them with his Austin Healey Sebring Sprite. Simon Thomas was in the 4TT V8 this time and successfully dodged the showers to take Vintage Class 17 from Reed Thomas driving the Fiat Balilla that Simon had used in Croft. The mist fog and light drizzle couldn't dampen the spirits of these motoring enthusiasts at the Craigantlet Hillclimb 2023. Indeed, it caused a bit of a stir amongst the British Hillclimb Championship results, proving a challenge for all.